And hello once again. Welcome to the Disability Law Show. John Scholes, Sivan, Tumarkin, James Fireman, full strength on the show today. We will be talking about disability rights and all things under that rather large umbrella. It can be a big bowl of confusion, and you have no spoon, so we're going to help you out here on the show today, as we always do. To reach out anytime, 1-855-821-5900, disabilityrights.ca. While you're on that website, you can catch past shows as well, so have a search. And if you want to reach out through email, just put a help at in front of that, help@disabilityrights.ca. On the show today, guys, we're going to talk about 4 things you should do if your insurer wants you to see their doctor for an assessment. We'll get to that in just a bit, and we'll get to the week that was with you, Sivan. But first, James, you got some stuff to cover, right?
I do. So one of the things that we like to do at the beginning of every show is just impart some knowledge for people who are going through the long-term disability process. And one of the most common experiences that I have as a lawyer dealing with this is speaking with new clients and there being a lot of confusion, especially at the beginning of the process. They've just been denied or their benefits have been cut off, and they're especially confused because they have a number of treating doctors who've all told them, you cannot go back to work. And yet, even with this information, they have an insurance company telling them that, in fact, they can and they must go back to work because their benefits are going to be cut off. And they figure that, well, if they just understood, if they had more information, then perhaps they would change their mind. And that is almost never the case. And I had a recent client who really exemplifies why this happens. So this particular client was being seen by 2 or 3 treating doctors. She had a mental health issue, and all of her doctors said to her, you cannot go back to work. You're just not ready to do that. And so we brought a claim when she was cut off. And once you bring a claim, you get the entire insurance file. So you see everything that the insurance company had access to, and you get to see what their internal memo said and any medical reports that they generated on their own. And once I got that, what I found was not only did they have all of the information from my client's treating doctor, but they also had gotten a paper review. And so what that means is they had gone out and hired a doctor to take a look at my client's medical file and provide them with a separate opinion as to whether or not my client could go back to work. And in this particular case, what their doctor told them was, no, she can't go back to work. She is not medically ready to go back to work. And you know what they did? Nothing. They still cut her off. They still cut her off. And so when people are not understanding why it is that the insurance company doesn't understand what their doctors are saying, that's a misunderstanding. The insurance company actually gets it completely. They're just choosing not to see what your doctors are saying, and they're doing it for a very simple reason. Insurance companies are corporations, and they're in business to make profits for their shareholders, and the way that they do that is by denying or cutting off claims as soon as they can. That's the only way that they can do it. And so they will look for any justification that they can, and oftentimes, even when there isn't a legitimate justification, they're going to do it anyway.
Sven, week that was, and then you want to get to the pocket employment lawyer as well.
Absolutely,
yep,
John. So, just touching on what James says in terms of the way the insurance companies operate. I had a lady contact me a few weeks ago. She had submitted her application for long-term disability in October of last year. And the reason she contacted me is not because she was denied. It was because up until now, she hasn't received a response. Neither a yes nor a no. And she follows up with the adjuster, and they keep saying they're reviewing the application. And of course, no money's coming in. It's significant financial stress on the family. She suffers from vertigo and a whole slew of issues, and her doctors have clearly said that she cannot go back to work. And really, all she wants is just a decision from the insurance company. And so she's contacting me, she's emailing me and saying, what should I do in this case? And John, I was actually at one of my children's activities at the time, and I'm looking at my email and I'm seeing this, and I'm literally seeing red. Because I'm thinking to myself, here I am with my kids at their activities, and I'm okay. And this lady has kids at home, small kids at home, and she's not even getting a decision from the insurance company. So I said to her, let me contact the insurance company on your behalf. Sign an authorization for me to contact them. Let me get that decision for you, either a yes or a no. And if it's a yes, that's great. And if it's a no, then I'll tell you what you need to do. And of course, her first concern was, well, how much is it going to cost me? I said, don't worry about it. It's not going to cost you anything. Let me contact the insurance company. Let me give them a deadline. So she says yes. I email them with the authorization, and it's a fairly forceful email. And essentially, I give them a deadline. I gave them until the following Friday to respond back. And She gets contacted directly because I hadn't been retained at that point. I'm simply being consulted by her. So they're allowed to contact her. So the adjuster contacts this lady and sets up a call for the following Monday. So this is about 7 days, 8 days after she first contacts me. And she ends up getting a call from the adjuster on the Monday, and I get an email from her that Monday afternoon saying they've given me a decision, they've approved me. But think about this for a second. She's been waiting since October of last year for a decision. So I think that the point that I'm trying to make here is that, you know, sometimes I agree that they turn a blind eye to certain claims. Sometimes they're doing things on purpose. Sometimes it's just because these are massive bureaucratic entities, and you need to know how to pressure them. And sometimes the threat of a legal claim goes a long way. So with this lady, I'm really happy. I mean, she got approved. You know, like in many instances, my fear is that she's going to get cut off in the future, but she knows where to go if that happens.
Right.
I mean, this is what we do each and every day. But this is an example for you of somebody who literally feels like they're powerless. And, you know, I think that, you know, from our standpoint, there's a lot of gratification on our end when we can get this justice for this individual, that we can get the insurance company to pay them what they are owed. But that's not always the case, because sometimes people don't seek that help. Sometimes they think that they can do things by themselves, or maybe the insurance company will understand. Trust me, the insurance company is not there to understand you. They're not there to help you. They are there, James said, to make money. And if they pay you something, it's because they have to pay you something. So when we force them to pay, it's not because they're doing this out of charity, it's because they understand that the alternative is that they may end up paying a lot more down the road.
Again, reaching out 1-855-821-5900, help at disabilityrights.ca. Pocket employment lawyer. Don't be fooled by the name. As cool as it is, there is a place in there for what you do as well.
Absolutely. So that's a website, and it's fairly new, but it's been used extensively, I can tell you, across the country. And, you know, our firm really focuses on two areas of law. We deal with disability claims, and we deal with employment matters. And that's important to understand, because many people who are disabled are having issues with their employers, and vice versa. People who are having issues with their employers often suffer from some kind of a disability and have issues with their insurance company. And so what we created is this website, this online tool that is free, it's anonymous, and, you know, people want to understand what their rights are. Do I have a case? I don't want to contact a lawyer. I don't want to call a lawyer or email a lawyer. I just want to find out. So you go to Dr. Google and you try to figure out if you can find the answers yourself. The problem is that there's so much misinformation. And even on some of the lawyers' websites that I've browsed myself, the information is not always accurate. So we decided to create this new website that allows people to get these quick answers to their questions. And so when you go to that website, it'll take you 20, 30 seconds, whether you have an employment issue or a disability issue or a mix of both. You go on the website, you click what's applicable to you by way of, you know, the details of your case, and then you'll get an analysis. You'll get a response back from this program that tells you, do you have a case or not? And if you do, here are your rights. At that point, if you want to contact us to get a more personalized assessment, if you want to really understand what your case is about and whether or not we can help you, by all means, click on the submit button, and then it comes to us, and then we contact you. And if you don't want that, then you don't have to. You can just close the browser. We'll never know that you were there. But it's a phenomenal, phenomenal website, and it's been used, I'm telling you, John, thousands of times across the country.
Again, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca is where you go to find that. It's absolutely free. And if you want to contact, in the top right, there's a little yellow Contact Us button. You could use that. Otherwise, as Sivan says, you walk away, and nobody knows you were even there. Help at disabilityrights.ca is the email address. Want to get to the first one for the day. Fellas, it is from Tom. Tom says, my father's a teacher and he's been battling colon cancer for a while now. He's receiving chemo and radiation treatments. He was on long-term disability for just under a year when he suddenly got a new adjuster. His new adjuster wrote him saying that their in-house doctor had reviewed his medical documents and thought that my father was healthy enough for a gradual return to work program. My father's oncologist now disagrees, but the adjuster said that if my father doesn't try to go back to work, then his benefits will be cut off in a month. What can we do about this?
Well, first and foremost, you can bring a legal claim. Because until you do that, until you formally start the legal process, the insurance company maintains complete control over how your benefits are processed. They can make whatever decision they want, and you can't force them to act reasonably unless and until you start a legal claim. And so until they know that you mean business, they're going to continue to do what they want. Now, Tom's email really highlights a very particular issue that we see all the time. And what that is, it's the importance of the various doctors that get involved in this process. And there's really an order to it. And the way I like to look at it is you have treating specialists up here. So these are the people that have specific, doctors that have specific knowledge in the issue that you're dealing with, that are treating you on a day-to-day basis. Below that is your family doctor, so someone who has general knowledge and who has been with you for a long time and is treating you on a day-to-day basis. Below that is someone who is doing an assessment, so someone who might have specific expertise, but is really only seeing you on one occasion at a specific point in time. And then below that is someone who is doing a paper review. Someone who isn't even meeting you in person, is just taking a look at your medical file and generating an opinion off of that. And generally speaking, that is also the way that the courts view it. So when the courts are weighing the relative weight of the opinions of all of these different doctors that may be involved in the process, that's how they look at it. Treating specialists, general practitioner, then you have your assessing doctor, and then you have a paper review doctor. So if this doctor who's been hired by the insurance company has done a paper review, I really don't care what they say if a treating oncologist is saying you can't go back to work. It's as simple as that. And no court is going to take the opinion if someone's doing a paper review over a treating oncologist. That's a silly decision for them to have made, and they ought to know better. And once you bring a legal claim, you're going to see how quickly they change their minds.
Why do they bother?
Well, because most people don't bring a legal claim.
Right.
Most people are going to either accept the decision, or they're going to see that thing at the bottom that says you can appeal, and they're going to think that, oh, well, maybe that's how I'm going to be able to resolve this.
Yeah.
But it never works. It never works.
John, actually, there was a recent case in British Columbia with an insurance company that lost in court, and the judge specifically made reference in the judgment to the fact that a paper review was not helpful.
Wow.
So to James's point, judges have recognized this, but insurance companies do whatever they can because, it's a bluff for them. Mm-hmm. As James said, a lot of people will not challenge the insurance company's decision. They'll walk away, and that's what the insurance company is counting on. That's the reality. To the point here of what Tom's saying about, his father needing to go back to work with the insurance company saying that, most people who contact me actually use the phrase, I am being forced back to work. Right. You have to remember that nobody's putting a gun to your head. And what you do when you are told you have to go back to work is you have to arm yourself with the information and documentation to combat that. If you are unable to go back to work, go to your doctors, get updated letters saying you are unable to work, if that's in fact the case. Transmit that, give that to the insurance company by way of an email. That is going to protect you in the future if they cut you off and we have to start a legal claim. So no one is there, no one's going to come in and force you to go to work. But when people use that language, what they're saying is I'm being pressured. Right. And that's when we tell people, that's when you contact us. It costs nothing to talk to us.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you, we'll explain to you what the process is, and we'll tell you what you can do to to push back.
The thing that underlies all of this is a misunderstanding that whether or not you're working, that's actually a medical decision. If you have a disability, your ability to go back to work is something that you have to determine with your doctors. When I have clients, call me and say, is it okay if I go back to work? I say, it's not up to me. If you can go back to work, that's absolutely in your best interest to do it, as long as your doctor says it's okay. In this case, if Tom's father's doctor is saying it's not okay, then he can't go back to work. Mm-hmm. And it's not a matter of your insurer forcing you or not. If your doctors are saying you can't go back to work, then you are going to do yourself real harm by even attempting to do it. So listen to what your doctors are saying, and we'll deal with the fallout afterwards. That's what we're here for.
Okay, guys, we'll take a short break. Coming up here, 4 things you should do if your insurer wants to go see their doctor for an assessment. That is coming up, so stick around. Lots more on the way. Disability Law Show continues.
You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. severancepaycalculator.com.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for hanging around. Disability Law Show. John, Sivan, and James ready to go here. 4 things you should do if your insurer wants you to see their doctor for an assessment. Guys, let's dive right into this one. Number 1, if you are unable to go back to work, get updated letters from your doctor confirming this, something you just talked about.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely have to do that. You should do that. One thing that I want to make clear here, if the insurance company is asking you to see one of their assessors, there is a reason for that. Okay, clearly they're either not buying what your doctor is telling them, or they're trying to get a second opinion or a third opinion, or whatever opinion they have, to prime your case potentially for a cutoff. Remember, when they're sending you to an assessment, someone is paying for that assessment. And the entity that's paying for that is the insurance company. So they are hoping they're going to get an opinion that is favorable to them. If it's favorable to them, it's bad for you. So you should seriously understand what the ramifications are of a bad report. The insurance company may very well rely on that to cut you off. So what you want to do to arm yourself, again, to combat this and to prepare yourself for a potential adverse report, a negative report, is go to your doctors and get updated letters and reports from your doctors. It doesn't have to be something very extensive. But again, if your doctors are still of the opinion that you cannot work because of your impairments, your illness, your injury, whatever that is, you want to make sure that there is an update there in writing, on paper, that you can give to the insurance company. The last update may have been 6 months ago, so it's not a bad idea to give that, especially leading up to you going to see an assessor.
Number 2 is this one. Go to the assessment you are required to and be as truthful as possible. Don't over or underreport any of your limitations or symptoms of your illness or injury.
Yeah, that's critical. Your credibility as a plaintiff, as someone bringing a claim, is absolutely paramount, and you have to make sure that there is no basis for your insurance company to be able to suggest that you've in any way been dishonest with them, because they are looking for any excuse to cut off your benefits. And if you don't have credibility, if you're telling them one thing but doing something else, then they are going to use that as a justification for cutting off your benefits. So when you go visit a doctor that they've hired for an assessment, you have to make sure that you're completely truthful at all times. You can even assume that they may have hired an investigator to do surveillance on you and may know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So you have to be completely forthright. When you're asked what activities you're doing, you have to tell them all the activities that you're doing. Don't over-report or under-report any of your symptoms. Just tell it exactly like it is. As a client, as someone who's bringing a claim, it is not your job to make your case better. It's not. That's what you hire us for. It's your job to tell the truth. Right. To tell the truth and to try and get better. That's all you have to worry about. And if they cut you off because of that, that's why we're here.
Talk about the 4 things you need to do if the insurance company wants to see their doctor for assessment. Sivan, number 3, this: ask for a copy of the report. Sounds basic. If their conclusions are different from your doctor's, give it to your doctor to provide a rebuttal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very, very important. And, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've had situations where individuals who've contacted me got copies of those reports that were made by these assessors hired by the insurance company, and forget about the testing that was done and some of the conclusions which were inaccurate, but even the medical history that was outlined in the report is inaccurate. And it's plainly inaccurate. And so, when you get one of those reports, you know your own medical history. You know what happened during the assessment. You know what you can and cannot do. You're going to go through it. You're going to read it with interest, and you're going to see that there are a lot of things, most likely, that are wrong with the report, factually wrong. Not opinion. I'm not saying that you go and start arguing with an orthopedic surgeon, but if the orthopedic surgeon says that you were born in 1958 and you were born in 1948, I mean, that there's a difference there, right? And there's a lot of these kinds of errors which end up leading to erroneous conclusions and opinions. Now, what you want to do, especially if the report comes to a different conclusion or set of conclusions than what your doctors are saying, give those to your doctors. I can tell you I've seen situations, especially with psychologists and psychiatrists, when you're dealing with mental health issues, where a lot of these individuals who are treating some of the clients that we work with, they take this personally. I've seen one rebuttal, one psychologist out of Ottawa who was so infuriated with the opinion assessment of the insurance company psychiatrist that psychologist wrote a 5-page rebuttal and basically insinuated that psychiatrist was out of his mind. It wasn't, it was a personal attack, but it was based on facts.
Yeah. She
recounted the history. I mean, she's been treating this person for over 10 years. So it's very important to actually go to your doctors. They will want to help you. And frankly, they are both your shield and your sword. And if you don't do that, that's okay. We will do that.
Right.
Because I don't think that there's nothing more powerful than a treating physician who goes to bat for their patient. And so that's very, very important. And if your doctor doesn't do that, there's other avenues. We can hire experts as well. Mm-hmm. But generally, it's a good idea to go to your own doctors. They know you best, and they'll be able to help.
One thing I want to add to that, I certainly agree with everything that Sivan just said. Before you go through this process, though, you want to make sure that request is in writing. So when your insurer calls you and says, we're sending you to this assessment, they'll often send you an email just confirming what time and date you're supposed to be there. Make sure you put the request in writing saying, I'll confirm I'll be there. Please confirm that you'll provide me with a copy of the report once it's been written. Now, whether or not they agree to that or even agree to it and then actually follow through is a whole other story. But you want to make sure that you've put that request in writing. So if they don't agree or don't follow through, you can use that as just another example of how they have not acted fairly, how they have not been forthright, and provided you with the opportunity to respond to how they've made their decision.
Absolutely. One last point. If the insurance company refuses to give you that report and you've asked for it in writing, I can tell you, you may not be able to get that report. The adjuster may simply stonewall you and not give it to you. When we start a legal claim, they have to give that to us, along with the entire file that they have. So once we get involved, we literally ask for the guts of their claims file, and they have to give it to us by law. So that's another thing, another positive in terms of us getting involved and starting that legal process. There are certain rules, procedural rules that they have to follow, and they know that because they're going to have a lawyer advising them that they have to know that. So don't worry about the fact that your adjuster is not giving you that report. Most likely there are problems with that report, but we can get that if we do get involved.
Last of 4 points, guys, the 4 things you should do if the insurer wants to see their doctor for an assessment. Be prepared to be cut off. It's probably going to happen. Contact a lawyer for help and advice.
Yeah, Sivan stepped all over this when he gave his first answer there, but that's exactly right. Yeah. When they are sending you for an assessment, it costs them money. They are sending you to see a doctor. They are paying that doctor to see you. If they are paying out of pocket, that reduces their profits, and they are in business to make money. So if they are paying out of pocket, you can assume the only reason they're doing it is because they see it as a way to make more money out of the result of it. The only way they can do that is if they use the result of the assessment, whatever report is written by the doctor, as a justification to cut off or deny your benefits. And that is what they are absolutely gearing up to do. And as I mentioned right off the top, sometimes they'll get a response from the doctor that does not support them cutting off or denying benefits, and they'll ignore it anyway. So if they are sending you for an assessment, you should really gear yourself up to be cut off. It won't happen 100% of the time, not at all, but more often than not, if they are spending money out of pocket, whether it's for an assessment or whether it's for a specific treatment, which is almost always geared towards returning to work, you should be prepared to have your benefits be cut off in the near future.
Yeah,
that's right.
Gotcha. All right, guys, coming up here, can a mental disability be considered, or pardon me, a mental issue be considered a total disability? We'll drill down on that after a short break. Disability Law Show continues. Stick around.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to disabilityrights.ca. You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
All right, welcome back. Disability Law Show, 1-855-821-5900, and disabilityrights.ca is the website. You can catch past shows there as well. Okay, guys, another resource for you to check out. You want to ask questions, mydisabilityquestions.com. We'll get to one from AJ. Says, guys, my best friend just got a denial letter in the mail from his long-term disability insurer. That said, they don't consider him to be totally disabled. I don't get it. He's been off work for over 8 months now because of severe depression and hallucinations. He has PTSD from being a victim of a robbery last year. His doctors have all said that he's unable to work and is on a lot of medications. Is there anything you guys can do to help?
Yes, 100%. And, you know, unfortunately, John, there's still a stigma associated with mental health issues. And frankly, I think insurance companies are cognizant of the fact that people who are experiencing those kinds of issues, whether it's PTSD or anxiety, depression, phobias, whatever it is, they're in a way in a more vulnerable state because they really can't fight back. And you know, that's one of the reasons why I think you have AJ here writing on behalf of his friend. And so, yeah, you know, this term total disability, it's a term that was invented by the insurance industry to really confuse you if you think about it, because when you think about total disability, you were focusing on the word total. What does total mean? To me, it means complete. It means that I have to be brain dead or paralyzed, whatever that is, right? So if you have somebody who's suffering from PTSD or somebody who's suffering from something else, maybe that person can go shop. Maybe that person can go take their kids to school. So, you know, people think to themselves, well, I am not totally disabled. Maybe the insurance company is correct. Absolutely not. If you cannot do substantial aspects of your occupation or any occupation, depending on where you are in that test, the period in the policy, and your doctors confirm that, you should qualify for LTD. You absolutely should. And this idea that mental disability or mental illness doesn't qualify for total disability status for getting LTD is complete nonsense. And time again, we've gone through this process. We forced insurance companies to the table, and they have paid our clients when they initially said you're not entitled to anything. And I'm talking about large claims, not just claims for 10, 20, 30,000. I'm talking about six-figure claims. So very important to understand, if you know someone that is suffering from mental illness, they've been denied long-term disability, and they cannot work, and their doctors say they cannot work, we can help them.
You know, Sivan and I have been doing this kind of work for 15 years now. And both of us have experience working on the defense side earlier in our careers and now working on the plaintiff side. And I can tell you, 15 years ago, the attitude about mental health claims was very different than it is now. 15 years ago, anyone who advanced a mental health claim would get a raised eyebrow and probably some snide remarks behind their back. Now, that's changing. Certainly it's changing in our society generally, and it's also changing in the legal community, albeit at a slower pace, unfortunately. However, our own Supreme Court has recently rendered a decision that makes very clear that that is absolutely inappropriate. Mental health claims are absolutely worthy of being compensated and have to be treated, by law, they have to be treated on equal footing with people who have physical claims. And whether or not there's objective proof, it does not mean that you can't advance a claim. A mental health claim is often, by definition, subjective, but that doesn't mean you're not entitled to the benefits that you've been paying premiums for a number of years. So if you have a mental health claim and someone's telling you that that's not a basis to bring a claim, they're wrong. It's as simple as that. Right? Absolutely. Yeah. If your mental health disability is preventing you from working, if your doctors are saying that, you are entitled to receive your disability benefits, and it's as simple as that.
That was mydisabilityquestions.com. That is where you want to go to ask that question. There is a drop-down menu and a wide variety of questions that have already been asked, so you can search, and maybe it's already been asked and answered before. If not, leave it there. The guys will get to it. Email that we use is help@disabilityrights.ca. If you shorten that simply down to disabilityrights.ca, you can go back and watch past shows as well. It's a beautiful thing. Check it out. And finally, the phone number, always 1-855-821-5900. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Disability Law Show.